On today's High Not to Laugh podcast, I, as a DC fan, am going to review Thor as part of our trip through the MCU that we're doing.
And I'm high on an edible.
He is.
Welcome back.
Oh, geez. I was looking at my facts.
He was taking a little nap.
No, I was looking at my facts. Facts. F-A-C-T-S, not facts, like a thing that barely exists at this point because emails exist.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Anywho, so basically I'll just get into the fact that I've always been a DC fan. Growing up, I was into Superman and Batman and stuff. And my son's more of a Marvel fan because he grew up in an age where Marvel movies were actually
good.
The good ones.
Not just good,
no,
but
the good ones
better.
Compared to, yeah. I grew up when Superman was the bomb. And
was the only one.
Well.
For a decade.
Well, then not all of them worked out well.
No.
The first two were great.
Yeah.
And then they made more.
They did.
Anyway, so he's having me go through these. I've watched a lot of them before. These aren't first time through for me, but actually I think I've watched all of them before except for some of the shows.
Yeah, most of the shows you haven't watched at this point.
I've watched quite a few. But anyway, I will tell you, I usually say what my thoughts of the character were before seeing the movie. And Thor never interested me as a character outside of when it became part of the MCU. As
and
a
even
kid,
then, for a while, it was kind of
I was Norse mythology or whatever.
With the Avengers, but
I just didn't care.
Right.
And I was like, why are they using someone's mythology as superheroes? That's weird. But they both do that.
Everybody does that at this point.
I mean, Marvel uses Santa Claus as one of its heroes.
And so does DC.
No, good point. And
I think canonically
Satan.
It's supposed to have been the same Santa.
Oh, I don't know. But anyway, the point is, it wasn't a character I ever cared about. So when they were like, Thor, I was like, I
can skip this one.
All right. Yeah, so that was basically my thoughts ahead of time. Would you like to talk about what the premise of this movie is?
The premise of this movie is Thor is kind of a dink, and he goes and starts a war with a country that they're a planet that they're
realm or whatever
peace with, technically, and then Loki
actually triggered that.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, people that hate us but we're at peace with, break in while my dad's asleep." So Odin took Thor's powers away because he started a war that Loki also started.
And sent him away to
New Mexico.
Yeah.
Where everything is dirty, dusty, and sad.
I hope we don't have a fan in New Mexico. But wow, that is disgusting. You just spit all over me. How are you coming in high and not have dry mouth? You got spit.
I'm already a bottle down.
It's Dr. Pepper. Anyway,
just what the doctor
and
ordered.
then he meets a girl and tries to earn the right to
falls from the
pick
sky
up his
onto
hammer
her
again
van
because you forgot to tell.
Oh yes,
the part where
took his powers away.
Well,
which is the hammer
with the promise of if someone becomes worthy, they can then lift the hammer.
And then everybody and their mom goes to try to pick up the hammer.
Including a truck driving
Stan
Lee. Yeah.
Matt Damon? No, not Matt Damon.
Anyway, then basically he gets into it with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep. Because he goes for the hammer and so does S.H.I.E.L.D.
And then, they pretty much, he has to go back and undo what his brother had done.
Yep. Which, to be fair, he also had done.
Yeah. I mean, he was, like you said, he was
regardless of what Loki did, he didn't need to go and destroy all those
especially when
people.
he was told, don't go there.
Right. And not
And
by
he's
Loki.
like, on my way.
Like,
right, from his dad. That
was correct. Yeah. No, that was the whole thing.
So that basically tells the story.
It does.
Yeah. So want to tell some behind the scenes information?
Sure.
All right.
You can go first.
When Chris Hemsworth and Sir Anthony Hopkins saw each other in full armor, Hopkins said, God, there's no acting required here, is there?
Well, according to director Sir Kenneth Branagh, the closing credits sequence was based on the images from the Hubble Space Telescope and took 18 months to create.
All right. The final choice for the role of Thor came down to the brothers, Chris and Liam Hemsworth. Chris thought it was funny. We both came all the way from Australia and ended up battling each other here.
Nice. Executive producer Stan Lee claimed he'd wanted to play Odin, but was happy with Sir Anthony Hopkins' casting and performance in the role.
I can't picture Stan.
No, he's way too
pulled
small.
It off. Yeah. Dr. Selvig, or Stellan Skarsgård, mentions a comrade who got mixed up with S.H.I.E.L.D., whom he described as a pioneer in gamma radiation, alluding to Bruce Banner, whose experiments in gamma radiation mutated him into the Hulk. A deleted scene also has him mention Hank Pym from Ant-Man.
Which, yeah, way too early for that at this point, but yes. Tom Hiddleston prepared for the role by going on a strict diet before and throughout filming so that Loki would have a lean and hungry visage. Visage. Okay.
Director Sir Kenneth Branagh also...
Nope. Huh? Oh, yeah, never mind.
Asked Sir Anthony Hopkins to improvise his reaction to Thor's yelling at him in the banishment scene. Hopkins agreed, and when the scene was filmed, many of the cast and crew present were sobbing. Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston later said they had to struggle to keep their composure during the filming. Hiddleston later complimented Hopkins, to which Hopkins said, Ken's fantastic, isn't he?
Sir Anthony Hopkins signed on as Odin despite never having read a Thor comic nor knowing anything about the Thor mythology. It was the concept of the father and son relationship that intrigued him about the role.
A few minutes after Thor smashes the coffee cup at the diner, you could see the truck Stan Lee was driving past the diner. You could tell because the back half is missing from being pulled off when he tried to move Mjolnir at the crater.
Yes.
I never know if I'm saying that right.
Right.
Because MJO with a couple dots. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Tom Hiddleston found Loki's helmet very uncomfortable as it was very heavy to wear and he couldn't see properly out of it. He channeled this...
Heavy is the head that bears the crown?
I guess so. He channeled this discomfort into Loki's battle scenes.
All right.
Yeah. Couple other things that weren't in there. I know originally when Patty Jenkins had gotten the directing role for Wonder Woman, her reasoning behind wanting to do a Wonder Woman movie was because she had been approached by Marvel, and her idea for the first Thor movie was to just go straight past Thor and go to Jane. And they said, no, we're doing this correctly. Leave that alone. And she said that if she was going to do the movie, it was going to be Jane, so they didn't keep her on.
I mean, you can't have Jane as the first Thor.
No, because the story of her being Thor is directly tied to Thor.
Right.
And there's also the fake name that they give him to try to get away from S.H.I.E.L.D. was Dr. Donald Blake. And in some of the comics, when he's pretending to be a human and doesn't want the world's eyes all over him, he's Dr. Donald Blake, a doctor that's an actual doctor, and he has an umbrella that turns into a hammer.
All right.
Yeah, it was a weird time.
Sounds it. All right, so, like I said, going into watching it my first time, I just didn't care about this character. I honestly didn't. So that didn't change a heck of a lot, except when the third movie came out was when I first really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I hated the second one so much. It had tinted my view of this one. Watching it again, separate from part 2.
Because you hadn't rewatched this since you had most recently seen 2.
Right. Like I definitely didn't go back.
And it's been a long time since you've seen that one.
Right. I saw that when it came out on DVD.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it since because I just didn't have any interest.
Right.
I hate that movie.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to it coming soon.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, in all honesty, like, it's not a bad movie. It's entertaining. The story with Jane they should have had a little bit more
in this one,
but
because
what are you going to do?
They try a little more in the second one, and I don't care because they didn't do enough in this one. I mean, when I first was going to watch this movie, originally, my take on it was, it's that annoying movie I keep hearing my mom watch because she had a crush on Thor. And she had probably watched this movie a couple hundred times by the time I ever cared to watch it. And
similar to why you didn't care for Game of Thrones.
Yeah. It's just like, all I ever heard was her watching this movie and it being dumb and him being loud.
All right. Well, I will have to say, and here's what we do on this show. I review it with what I think the movie should be, and then I talk about, does it get a bump from watching it enlightened?
Yes.
As it were.
Right.
And I will say, I've seen it both ways. I would give it a 7 either way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'd probably give it a 6 without, just normally watching it, and probably a 7.5, almost an 8 afterwards.
I wouldn't go that high, not with how good 3 is.
Well,
that's the problem. I know I know that's not necessarily fair to this when it first had come out, but I can't not remember.
Sure, I know what lies ahead, but what lies ahead's going to just be higher, obviously.
You got to leave room for it to be higher.
There's plenty of room.
Yeah, well, it's better. It's more than 2.
So far, we've only ever rated this within 10, and there's up to 100.
Wow.
But
no. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 7.5, and it's definitely better to me watching it. So enlightened, as you put it.
I guess I will say that this is. How would I put it? It's DC comic Gen X fan approved.
This one is?
Yeah.
Anything over 5 would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, it's, first of all, I respect this movie a lot because it does something that superhero movies shouldn't do.
What's that?
Take their superheroes' powers away and leave them useless for 90% of the movie.
Have you seen Superman 2?
Yeah. I said it's something that they shouldn't do.
And
it was
Superman
one of the problems in that movie.
No.
I thought it was a problem in that movie.
Anyway.
But, like, some of the early comics where he was kind of a dink and got his powers taken away, and he got thrown to the desert.
I mean, all right. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Not really.
No? Same here. I mean, I definitely like it better than I remembered liking it.
Yeah.
So, as always, whosoever holds this bong shall be worthy and to possess the power of weed.
Yes.